Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're focusing on the US 1 cent coin, the Canadian 1 cent coin, a small coin with a long and fascinating history. From the early large cents to the classic wheat pennies and modern shield designs, the 1 cent coin has seen countless changes and rare additions. Some of these coins are incredibly valuable to collectors. Let's take a closer look at what makes the humble penny a true treasure in your pocket. The 1927 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny is a copper 1 cent coin minted at the Denver Mint, identifiable by the small d mint mark beneath the date on the obverse. As part of the long-running Lincoln Cent series, first introduced in 1909, this coin features the classic wheat ears reverse design created by Victor D. Brenner. The obverse bears the portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust" along the top rim, "Liberty" to the left of the portrait, and the date 1927 to the right, just above the mint mark. In a bad used condition, this coin shows heavy wear across nearly all surfaces. The portrait of Lincoln is likely flat or smoothed in many areas, particularly around the hair, cheek, and jawline. Details in the beard and facial contours are likely faint or fully worn away, making the features less distinguishable. The flat areas of the coin surrounding the design may appear rough, pitted, or discolored due to long-term circulation and environmental exposure. It's common for such a coin to have scratches, nicks, and possibly corrosion spots. The reverse of the coin originally depicted two stylized wheat ears framing the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America. Above these central inscriptions is E pluribus unum. In a heavily worn example like this, the wheat stalks may be almost completely worn down, with only faint outlines remaining. The lettering might be weak or partially illegible, particularly on coins that have seen extensive handling. The rim may be partially merged into the design, and damage or flattening at the edges is common. This coin is composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, consistent with cents minted in that period. Because of the copper composition, older Lincoln cents often darken or develop green or brown patinas when exposed to air and moisture over decades. Badly circulated examples like this one may show uneven toning, stains, or even verdigris, a greenish corrosion common on older copper coins. The 1927 D penny had a total mintage of approximately 27.2 million pieces. While not particularly rare, any coin from the 1920s is considered old and can be of historical interest to collectors. In bad condition, its market value is typically low, often close to its base metal value or a nominal amount above face value. However, it still holds significance as a nearly century-old artifact of American numismatic history. Collectors who acquire coins in poor condition often do so to complete a date-mint set or for educational purposes. A worn 1927 D penny can help illustrate the effects of circulation over time and the changes in U.S. coin design and production. Despite the condition, this coin is still a piece of American history, produced during the Roaring Twenties, a time of economic prosperity and social change in the United States before the onset of the Great Depression. In summary, a 1927 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny in bad, heavily used condition is a well-worn example of early 20th century American coinage. Though not valuable in monetary terms, it offers insight into the lifespan of circulated coins, the durability of early copper cents, and the legacy of the Lincoln Wheat Penny series. It may not appeal to those seeking high-grade or visually impressive coins, but it remains a meaningful piece for collectors who appreciate historical context and the continuity of American coin design. The 1950 Canada 1 cent coin is a historical piece of Canadian currency that offers insight into the mid-20th century economy and coinage. This coin was produced during the reign of King George VI, a period that followed World War II and led into a time of rebuilding and modernization across the British Commonwealth. In 1950, Canada was establishing its post-war identity while continuing to maintain traditional elements in its national symbols and currency designs. On the obverse of the coin is the portrait of King George VI, designed by Thomas Humphrey Paget. The portrait depicts the king facing left, with a strong and detailed profile. The legend around the portrait reads Georgievs vi Dei Gratia Rex, which translates to George VI, by the grace of God, King. This is a classic inscription used during his reign, symbolizing the monarchy's authority in both religious and political aspects. In circulated coins, especially those from the 1950s, the details in the king's hair, face, and neckline may show signs of wear, but the overall image remains recognizable. The text typically stays readable unless the coin has been heavily worn or corroded. The reverse of the 1950 Canadian 1-cent coin features the iconic maple leaf design by George Kruger Gray. This design, introduced in 1937, features to stylized maple leaves on a single stem. Above the leaves is the word Canada, while the denomination 1 cent appears below, with the year 1950 centered beneath. To the right of the design are the initials KG, representing the designer. The design has become symbolic of Canada's identity and heritage, and it was used for many years due to its strong visual connection to the country's natural landscape. The coin is made of bronze, composed of 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc. This composition gives it a rich reddish-brown appearance when it is new, though age, handling, and environmental conditions can affect its color and texture over time. The coin you describe is in good condition with some dots, indicating it has been circulated but still retains most of its detail. The dots are likely due to oxidation or small contact marks from decades of use and storage, which is common for coins of this age. These imperfections are generally accepted among collectors, especially when they do not obscure major design elements. More than 81 million of these coins were minted in 1950, making them relatively common in the world of Canadian coin collecting. Because of this large mintage, the coin is not considered rare, but it still holds value for collectors due to its age, historical context, and representation of a bygone era in Canadian currency. In circulated condition, its market value is typically modest, ranging from face value to a few dollars depending on the specific condition. Coins that are uncirculated or in mint state can command higher prices from collectors seeking high grade. Examples: the 1950 1-cent coin reflects the continued influence of British monarchy on Canadian coinage before the accession of Queen Elizabeth II in 1952. The transition between monarchs was significant, as it marked not only a change in leadership, but also a shift in Canadian coin design that would follow in the years to come. Coins bearing the image of George VI offer collectors a way to trace this important historical change and to preserve part of Canada's royal and colonial heritage. In practical terms, this coin would have been a familiar part of Canadian daily life in the 1950s. It was used in everyday transactions to buy candy, newspapers, or small household items, and its value, though minimal today, represented a meaningful purchasing power at the time. The physical wear seen on circulated examples is a testament to how widely used and essential the penny once was in Canada's economy. While this specific coin may not be rare, it can still be a cherished item in a collector's set, particularly for those who are compiling a complete run of Canadian small cents or who have a focus on the reign of King George VI. Many collectors look for coins from this period not only for their numismatic value, but also for their historical and emotional significance. Today, as the Canadian penny is no longer in production, coins like the 1950 1-cent hold greater interest as historical relics. Canada ceased minting pennies in 2012 due to rising production costs and declining usage, so coins from previous decades have become increasingly nostalgic and symbolic. The 1950 penny, with its distinctive design and connection to post-war Canada, helps tell the broader story of the nation's development, identity, and changing relationship with its currency. This coin serves as a small, tangible reminder of how coins reflect the time in which they were made, from their materials and designs to their usage and historical context. Even with some minor dots or marks, a 1950 Canadian 1-cent coin in good condition offers collectors, historians, and enthusiasts a meaningful glimpse into Canada's past. The 1967 1-cent coin without a mint mark is a Lincoln Memorial cent minted by the Philadelphia Mint. During this era, Philadelphia did not place a mint mark on its coins, so its absence is typical and does not indicate an error. The obverse features the familiar right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor D. Brenner, a design that has been in use since 1909. Above Lincoln's head is the national motto "In God We Trust," while liberty is inscribed to the left and the date 1967 appears to the right. Being in circulated condition, this coin likely shows clear signs of wear. The high points of Lincoln's face and hair may be flattened or smoothed from years of use. Minor surface scratches, discoloration, or loss of original mint luster are common in circulated coins of this age. Despite the wear, the major features, Lincoln's portrait and the lettering, remain clearly visible. The reverse of the coin displays the Lincoln Memorial, which replaced the wheat ears in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The memorial design includes inscriptions reading United States of America across the top, the motto E Pluribus Unum just below that, and 1 cent at the bottom. Even in circulated condition, the general outline and columns of the memorial are typically identifiable, although finer details, such as the statue of Lincoln inside the structure, may be faint or worn smooth. The coin is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a standard composition for Lincoln cents until 1982. Its rich reddish-brown tone can shift to a deeper brown over time due to exposure and oxidation. In circulated condition, it may also show signs of environmental impact, such as spotting, dark patches, or signs of grime buildup from long-term handling. In 1967, coinage production was affected by the U.S. Mint's transition out of the coin shortage of the early 1960s. To streamline production and discourage hoarding, the Mint temporarily removed mint marks from all coins from 1965 to 1967. Therefore, no 1967 cents from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco bear a mint mark. This policy was meant to reduce public attention to collecting coins by mint origin, allowing more coins to stay in circulation. More than 3 billion Lincoln cents were produced in 1967, making it one of the highest mintage years for this denomination. As a result, the coin is common and easily found in circulated condition. Despite its availability, many collectors hold on to 1967 cents as part of complete Lincoln cent date sets or for their historical significance related to minting policies of the time, though the coin itself is not rare or particularly valuable. Even in uncirculated condition, it remains a staple in coin collections that focus on 20th century U.S. coinage. Collectors often look for well-preserved examples or possible die varieties, though few major errors are commonly associated with this year. Overall, the 1967 1-cent coin without a mint mark in circulated condition is a representative artifact of the era's coin production. While its condition limits its market value, it maintains historical and educational interest, particularly in illustrating a unique time when mint marks were deliberately excluded as part of broader economic policy efforts. The coin's composition, iconic imagery, and role in everyday commerce make it a reliable example of mid-century American currency. 1969 Canada 1-cent coin is a notable example of Canadian small change from the late 1960s. It was issued during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II and is part of a long-standing series that featured the maple leaf design on the reverse. The coin, in good condition, as you describe, likely retains most of its original detail and has minimal wear, though it shows signs of use consistent with circulation. On the obverse of the coin is the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. This version of the Queen's portrait was designed by Arnold Machen and was introduced in 1965. It presents the young queen facing right, wearing a tiara. Around the portrait is the inscription Elizabeth to D.G. Regina, which is short for the Latin Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. The portrait is elegant and well-proportioned, and in a good condition coin, most of the facial details, hair texture, and the tiara's shape should still be visible and sharp. The reverse of the coin features the famous maple leaf twig design, created by George Kruger Gray. This design, first introduced in 1937, became an enduring symbol of Canada and was used consistently until the last Canadian penny was minted in 2012. The reverse shows two maple leaves growing from a single stem. The word Canada appears above, 1 cent below, and the date 1969 is struck between the two. To the right of the stem are the initials KG, representing the designer. This side of the coin, in good condition, would generally display clear lines and edges on the leaves and stem, with the text and numerals still distinct. The composition of the 1969 Canadian 1 cent coin is 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc. This bronze alloy gives the coin a distinctive reddish-brown hue when new, though over time and through handling, it can darken slightly or develop natural toning. A coin in good condition may still display its original color, or it may show mild discoloration while retaining a clear design and minimal surface damage. Minor contact marks, tiny abrasions, or soft edges are acceptable at this level of preservation, but the coin should not be heavily corroded or worn flat. The 1969 penny is also remembered for the existence of a rare and valuable variety that year. A small number of 1969 pennies were struck using a die intended for a proof-like coin, resulting in a distinctive large date variety. These are extremely rare and command high prices among collectors. However, the vast majority of 1969 pennies are of the standard small date variety, which is far more common. Identifying the rare variant involves precise examination of the numerals in the date, often requiring magnification and familiarity with the subtle design differences. If your coin is the common version and in good condition, it still represents a fine collectible, though not an especially rare one. Over 345 million 1 cent coins were minted in 1969, making it one of the high mintage years. As such, circulated examples are common and are usually valued at a nominal amount unless they are in uncirculated or proof condition or belong to the rare variety. However, this coin still has numismatic appeal for collectors who seek to build complete date runs, especially those focusing on Queen Elizabeth II's coinage or mid-20th century Canadian currency. The historical context of this coin includes a period of modernization and identity consolidation for Canada. The country was moving forward as an increasingly independent nation, both politically and culturally, while maintaining many traditional elements. The use of both French and English on Canadian currency and the retention of the monarch on its coins are examples of this dual identity. While the 1969 1 cent coin does not feature bilingual text, it exists within a broader series of coins that reflect Canada's bilingual and bicultural heritage. From a collector's standpoint, a 1969 1 cent coin in good condition is a solid representation of the period. It may not have high monetary value, but it contributes to the historical record of Canadian coinage. Coins like this one were used daily by millions of Canadians in schools, stores, banks, and households, and they hold nostalgic value. For many, as with all discontinued denominations, the Canadian penny now serves as a marker of the past, offering insight into both economic history and design trends. Although Canada discontinued the penny in 2012, coins like the 1969 issue remain widely collected. They are commonly stored in albums or coin folders that document the full range of years, or they may be used in thematic collections centered on the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. Good condition examples are often used as fillers or upgrades in such collections, appreciated for their visual appeal and preserved detail. In summary, the 1969 Canadian 1 cent coin is a well-made and widely recognized piece of Canadian numismatic history. While not rare in its standard form, it is still of interest to collectors due to its age, design, and the possibility of rare variants. Coins in good condition like yours showing minimal wear and retaining clear detail, continue to play an important role in hobbyist collections and in the broader story of Canadian coinage. The 1980 1-cent coin without a mint mark is a Lincoln Memorial cent produced at the Philadelphia Mint. During this time, the Philadelphia Mint did not place a mint mark on its coins, which distinguishes it from those struck in Denver D or San Francisco S. The obverse features the familiar right-facing profile of President Abraham Lincoln, first introduced in 1909 to mark the centennial of Lincoln's birth. This portrait, designed by Victor D. Brenner, had by then become an enduring image on U.S. coinage. On the front of the coin, the inscriptions include "In God We Trust" across the top rim, "Liberty" to Lincoln's left, and the date 1980 to his right. A coin in good circulated condition will show some signs of wear from handling and use in commerce, but the major details on Lincoln's face, hair, and clothing will still be visible, though perhaps slightly softened. The lettering should be sharp and fully legible, and there may be small surface marks or minor discoloration, which are common on circulated copper coins. The reverse of the coin features the Lincoln Memorial, a design that replaced the wheat ears in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Above the memorial, the words "United States of America" are curved along the top rim. Directly beneath that is the motto "E Pluribus Unum," and at the bottom of the coin, the denomination is stated as 1 cent in coins that have been circulated but remain in good condition. Most of the lines on the memorial building will still be visible, though the finer architectural details may show wear. A keen eye or magnification might still reveal the tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial. The 1980 cent was minted with a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, which was standard for cents prior to the 1980 to switch to copper-plated zinc. Because of its copper content, the coin has a distinctive weight and feel and is slightly heavier than cents minted later. The color of the coin, originally a bright reddish hue, may have darkened to a brown or reddish-brown tone over time depending on storage and exposure to air, moisture, and handling. In terms of production volume, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 7.4 billion 1-cent coins in 1980, making it a very common issue. Despite its high mintage, many of these coins have been lost or heavily worn, so coins that are still in good circulated condition are often kept by collectors who aim to assemble year sets or study small differences in design and die production. While the 1980 cent without a mint mark is not considered rare or highly valuable, it remains a consistent part of numismatic collections. Its age, copper composition, and position within the long-running Lincoln cent series give it modest historical significance. Moreover, collectors who appreciate U.S. coinage from the late 20th century often include this coin in their sets, both for its durability and as an example of the design elements of the period. Coins from this year may also be inspected for varieties or minting anomalies, although such errors are not widespread for 1980 Philadelphia cents. Still, double dies, die cracks, and off-center strikes occasionally appear and are sought by error collectors. In summary, the 1980 1-cent coin without a mint mark, in good circulated condition, is a solid example of a commonly used U.S. coin that retains historical interest and collecting value due to its copper content, clean design, and connection to the enduring Lincoln series. Its moderate wear and continued legibility make it a useful and recognizable piece of American currency. History. The 1960 to Canada 1-cent coin is a small but historically relevant piece of Canadian currency that reflects both the numismatic heritage of the country and its coinage design traditions of the mid-20th century. Minted at a time of stability and growth in post-war Canada, the coin features the classic design that had become a standard for Canadian cents in the mid-1900s. This coin, in circulated condition, has likely passed through countless hands over the decades, contributing to its worn appearance, but also adding a layer of history and character. The obverse of the coin features the youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Mary Gillick. This portrait, used from 1953 until 1964, presents the Queen facing right, adorned with a laurel wreath in her hair, and without a crown. Around the portrait is the Latin inscription Elizabeth to Dei Gratia Regina, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. Over time, coins in circulation typically develop where on the Queen's facial features, hair details, and lettering, though they often remain legible and recognizable. The reverse side of the 1960 cent features the iconic to maple leaf design. Created by G.E. Kruger Gray, it displays two sharply veined maple leaves sprouting from a single twig. This reverse design had been in use since 1937 and became a powerful national symbol representing Canadian identity and pride. The word Canada is positioned at the top, and 1 cent is inscribed beneath the leaves, with the date 1960 placed just below. On the right side near the stem of the leaves, the designer's initials KG are visible in most well-preserved specimens, though they can be feigned on heavily circulated coins. This 1 cent coin from 1962 was composed primarily of bronze, consisting of 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc. This alloy gave the coin its rich reddish-brown appearance when new, although over the decades, exposure to air and handling can lead to discoloration, darkening, and surface marks. In circulated condition, the coin may appear dull or have areas where the original color has faded. Small nicks, scratches, and overall smoothing of the design features are typical signs of wear, especially on the high points like the Queen's portrait and the tips of the maple leaves. The 1960 Canadian cent was produced in large quantities. Over 290 million were minted at the Royal Canadian Mint. As a result, it is not a rare or highly valuable coin in monetary terms, especially in circulated condition. However, its value to collectors and historians lies in its age, its role in Canadian commerce, and its contribution to a broader understanding of the country's coinage system. Many collectors include the 1960 cent in chronological sets or seek out coins from each year to illustrate the progression of Canadian currency design. Circulated coins, such as this one, typically fall into the lower grading categories, ranging from good to fine depending on the degree of wear. In these grades, the details of the coin are still visible, but sharper elements like hair strands, leaf veins, and letter serifs may be worn smooth. Despite the wear, a well-circulated 1960 cent still offers an appealing historical artifact, particularly for collectors focused on Canadian pennies or mid-century coinage. For collectors starting a Canadian small cent collection, this coin offers an accessible entry point. Its affordability and availability mean that it can be easily obtained, often for less than $1, depending on condition. While uncirculated and proof examples do exist and command higher prices, circulated coins are more commonly found and are often passed down through generations or discovered in old change jars. This coin also carries sentimental value for those who lived during the 1960s or who have inherited family coin collections. Its presence in everyday transactions during that time means it was used in a variety of common purchases, from school lunches to bus fares, making it a tangible connection to the lives and experiences of everyday Canadians over time. As fewer of these coins remain in circulation or available in the public domain, even the more common dates like 1960 can gain increased interest from enthusiasts looking to preserve Canadian history through numismatics. As Canada discontinued the penny in 2012, coins like the 1960 1 cent have become part of a closed chapter in the nation's currency history. They serve as a reminder of how even the smallest unit of money once played a significant role in commerce and daily life. Today, this coin may no longer have purchasing power, but it carries enduring cultural and historical significance. Overall, the 1960 Canadian 1 cent coin in circulated condition is a modest yet meaningful piece. It combines the classic design elements of Canadian coinage with the story of a country in the midst of social and economic change. Its worn surfaces tell of decades of use, and its continued existence in collections today ensures that this small artifact remains a part of Canada's national story. The 1968 1-cent coin without a mint mark is a Lincoln Memorial cent, struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1968, the Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark, which distinguishes it from coins minted in Denver marked with a D or San Francisco marked with an S. The obverse of the coin features a right-facing profile of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor D. Brenner. This same basic portrait has been used since 1909. On this 1968 issue, the inscriptions include "In God We Trust" across the top edge, liberty to the left of Lincoln's image, and the date 1968 to the right. The coin is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving it a reddish-brown appearance when in good condition. A well-preserved 1968 penny shows strong detail in Lincoln's hair, face, and jacket. The lettering and date should be sharp and fully legible. In a good condition coin, minimal wear is present, and the surface maintains a consistent tone, though it might have mellowed slightly over time. The reverse of the coin, introduced in 1959 to replace the wheat ears design, shows the Lincoln Memorial. Above the memorial is the inscription "United States of America," and below it is 1 cent. Centered above the steps of the memorial is the motto "E pluribus unum." On well-preserved examples, the columns of the memorial are distinct, and tiny details, such as the seated statue of Lincoln inside the monument, can be made out under magnification because of its copper composition. This coin may show signs of minor toning natural color changes due to exposure to air over decades, but in good condition, it would not have heavy scratches, corrosion, or other major blemishes. Coins stored in dry, stable environments tend to retain a more even color and remain relatively unmarred by the elements. In terms of mintage, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 1 billion of these coins in 1968. This large quantity makes the coin quite common, especially in circulated and lower mint state conditions. While not rare, it still represents a key part of U.S. coinage history during the post-silver era. Its copper content also gives it some collector interest, especially since U.S. cents were later changed to copper-plated zinc in 1982. Collectors often keep 1968 cents to complete a year set or to study the slight differences in die varieties that can be found on coins from this period. Occasionally, 1968 Lincoln cents may show minor die errors or doubling, though these are not widespread for Philadelphia minted coins of that year. Nevertheless, even without such varieties, a coin in good condition with clean surfaces and well-struck details is valued for its aesthetic and historical appeal. Overall, the 1968 Lincoln Memorial cent without a mint mark in good condition is a well-preserved example of late 1960s American coinage. Though common in terms of mintage and modest in value, it maintains its place as part of the long-running Lincoln cent series and provides collectors with a tangible piece of mid-20th century U.S. monetary history. Next, this coin was minted during the height of World War II, a period that influenced the materials and designs used in coin production. In 1943, Canada, like many countries, faced material shortages and had to adjust minting processes to support the war effort. The 1-cent coin from this year is a good example of how practical needs shaped everyday currency. The 1943 Canadian 1-cent coin features the iconic portrait of King George VI on its obverse side. He was the reigning monarch at the time, and his image appears without a crown, facing left. The inscription surrounding the portrait reads George's VID, Rex ETINDIMP, which is an abbreviation of the Latin phrase George VI, by the grace of God, King and Emperor of India. This was a standard title used on many Commonwealth coins before India gained independence in 1947. The detail in the king's facial features, hair, and neckline typically shows moderate wear in circulated coins, though key elements of the image often remain recognizable. The reverse of the coin displays the traditional maple leaf design that is closely associated with Canadian identity. Two maple leaves, one on each side of the coin's center, extend outward from a single stem. Above the stem is the word Canada, and below it is the denomination 1 cent with the date 1943 centered beneath. The initials KG appear just to the right of the leaves, referencing the designer, George Kruger Gray. This design was introduced in 1937 and remained in use for several decades due to its strong symbolism and aesthetic appeal. The 1943 Canadian cent is made of tombac, a type of brass alloy composed of 88% copper and 12% zinc. Earlier versions of the coin were composed of almost pure copper, but tombac became the preferred material during the war due to its availability and lower cost. The tombac coins have a slightly different color from other cents, often a more golden or reddish tone compared to the deeper brown seen in earlier copper cents. However, coins that have circulated for many decades, like this one, typically show signs of oxidation, discoloration, or a duller surface tone, especially if stored in less than ideal conditions. This particular coin is in circulated condition, meaning it was used in everyday transactions for a period of time. Circulated coins often display moderate to heavy wear, particularly on high points, such as the tips of the maple leaves and the fine details of the king's portrait. The flat areas of the coin may have scratches, nicks, or small contact marks from use. Despite the wear, all the major features, date, inscriptions, and design elements should still be clearly visible, even if they are slightly worn or less sharp. In terms of rarity and collector value, the 1943 Canadian 1 cent coin is generally considered a common date, as tens of millions were minted. It is widely available in the coin collecting market, particularly in circulated condition. Because of this, its monetary value is typically modest, usually ranging from face value to a few dollars depending on the coin's condition. Coins in uncirculated or near uncirculated condition, however, may attract higher interest and value from collectors looking to complete a high-grade set of King George VI cents. Even though its value may be small, this coin holds significant historical importance. It was produced during a time of global conflict, and every detail of its composition and production reflects the reality of a world at war. The shift to tombac, the slight design modifications, and the continued use of King George VI's portrait all represent Canada's role in the British Commonwealth and its contributions during World War II for collectors and history enthusiasts. Coins like the 1943 Canadian cent provide a tangible connection to that era. Many collectors seek out coins like the 1943 cent to complete a chronological collection of Canadian small cents, which began in 1920 and continued until the penny was discontinued in 2012. The durability of the design and metal composition has allowed many of these coins to survive in decent condition. Even after decades in circulation, the 1943 Canadian 1 cent coin is also a reminder of how even the smallest denomination can carry a wealth of history and meaning. For many Canadians, these coins were part of daily life, used to buy candy, newspapers, or bread, and exchanged in countless personal and commercial transactions. Today, they remain a popular entry point for new collectors and a nostalgic item for those who remember when the penny was still part of everyday currency. As Canada no longer mints 1 cent coins, older examples like the 1943 piece serve as relics of a time when pennies were still a functional and necessary part of the monetary system. The discontinuation of the penny in 2012 only adds to the interest surrounding these coins, even if their individual value remains low. For many collectors, the charm lies not in profit, but in preservation, holding onto a small piece of the country's rich numismatic heritage. Next up we have the 1971 1 cent coin without a mint mark is a Lincoln Memorial cent struck by the Philadelphia Mint. During this time, the absence of a mint mark was standard for coins minted in Philadelphia. The obverse of the coin features the well-known right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor D. Brenner in 1909. This design remained unchanged in its core features for decades, serving as a familiar symbol of American coinage. Above Lincoln's head is the national motto "In God We Trust," with the word liberty positioned to the left of the portrait and the date 1971 on the right, the overall visual balance of the design remains consistent with earlier issues, reflecting a minimalist yet enduring representation of Lincoln's legacy. On coins in good condition, like this example, most of the original design elements are intact, though slight wear might be noticeable on high points, such as Lincoln's cheekbone, jawline, and hair. The reverse side of the coin features the Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The central image shows the stately structure in fine detail, including the columns and, faintly, the statue of Lincoln visible between them. Above the image is the inscription United States of America, with the Latin motto E pluribus unum below it, and the denomination 1 cent at the bottom. In good condition, the architectural elements of the memorial remain clear and distinguishable, though minor smoothing or discoloration may appear due to circulation. The coin is composed primarily of copper to 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that continued until 1982, when the mint switched to a predominantly zinc-based planchet with a copper plating. The rich, reddish-brown hue of copper coins, like this one, often deepens over time, developing a darker tone, especially if the coin has been exposed to air or handled frequently. Coins in good condition, like this 1971 cent, typically show moderate wear but retain legible inscriptions and visible design elements. There may be small nicks or scratches from use, and the original mint luster is usually diminished. However, there are no major damages, and both sides of the coin remain visually appealing for general collection purposes. In terms of mintage, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 1.9 billion Lincoln cents in 1971, making this one of the more common dates within the series. Because of the large mintage and the absence of significant errors or rare varieties for this year, most 1971 cents carry minimal value above face unless in high uncirculated grades or featuring special characteristics like a striking anomaly. The 1971 1-cent piece represents a typical and consistent output from the U.S. Mint in the early 1970s, a period when coin production was stable and the mint was focused on meeting the demands of everyday commerce. Although this particular coin may not be rare or especially valuable in the numismatic market, it still offers insight into the consistency of coinage design and production practices in the United States. Collectors who appreciate the Lincoln Cent series often include coins like this as part of a complete date collection. While circulated examples are easy to obtain, finding one in good condition, with most details preserved and free from major blemishes, adds value to a personal collection, especially for those interested in assembling a full set by year and mint location. Overall, this 1971 1-cent coin without a mint mark in good condition is a solid example of mid-20th century U.S. coinage. It reflects the durability and widespread circulation of the Lincoln Cent, a coin that has been a constant presence in American pockets, cash registers, and coin jars for over a century. Though simple and familiar, coins like this serve as tangible reminders of history, daily life, and economic activity throughout the decades. The 1991 Canada 1-cent coin is a relatively modern piece of Canadian currency minted during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. This coin, being in circulated condition, has seen everyday use and likely shows common signs of wear, such as softened edges, minor surface scratches, and general dulling of its original luster. Despite this, it still serves as a clear and recognizable representation of its type and era. On the obverse of the coin, the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II faces right. This portrait was designed by Dora de Pettery Hunt and was introduced in 1990. It replaced the previous effigy by Arnold Machen. Pettery Hunt's design is notable. It was the first created by a Canadian artist to be used on Canadian coinage. The Queen is shown more mature, with a calm and dignified expression, wearing a pearl necklace and earrings. Around the portrait is the inscription Elizabeth to D.G. Regina, an abbreviation of the Latin Dei Gratia Regina, meaning by the grace of God, Queen. In a circulated condition coin, some of the finer details of the hair and jewelry might be less distinct, but the general features and lettering should remain clear. The reverse side of the coin features the classic maple leaf twig design by George Kruger Gray. This design was used consistently from 1937 until the penny's final year in 2012. The two maple leaves, connected at a single stem, are a long-standing symbol of Canadian identity. The design also includes the country name Canada at the bottom, the denomination 1 cent at the top, and the year 1991 prominently placed. To the right of the stem are the initials KG, indicating the designer. On a circulated coin, the leaves may show some wear around the veins and edges, but the design remains intact and easily identifiable. The 1991 penny was composed of 98% copper, with 1.5% zinc and 0.5% tin, giving it a distinctive reddish-brown appearance when freshly minted. Over time, copper coins develop patina and may turn darker or exhibit brown, red, or even greenish tones due to exposure to air, moisture, and handling. A circulated 1991 penny might have lost much of its original shine and display spots or minor corrosion, but its essential form and design should remain solid and readable. In terms of mintage, 831 million of these coins were produced, making it a very common issue because of this large quantity and the fact that it is not particularly old or associated with any major varieties or mint errors. The 1991 Canada penny typically has low monetary value in circulated condition. Its main appeal is sentimental or historical, especially for collectors interested in completing a full set of Canadian cents from the 20th century. Even though it is a common date, this coin still plays a valuable role in understanding Canada's coinage and its evolution over time. The early 1990s marked a period of transition in design and composition, and coins from this era reflect subtle changes in portraiture and minting techniques. The use of Canadian artists like Petrie Hunt signaled a greater emphasis on national identity in coin design, and even small denominations like the 1 cent coin were part of that shift. For many Canadians, coins like the 1991 penny are closely tied to daily life and childhood memories. Pennies were used widely in everyday transactions, from vending machines to school lunches, and held a practical value despite their low purchasing power. Today, with the penny no longer in circulation, such coins evoke a sense of nostalgia and historical continuity. Collectors and enthusiasts often include them in date runs or thematic displays that trace the progression of Canadian currency, political history, and economic change. In collections, circulated examples like the 1991 penny often serve as placeholders or filler coins, especially when higher grade or uncirculated examples are not available. They provide context and completeness to a set, allowing the collector to appreciate the full scope of the coin's usage and longevity. Even in its worn state, the coin carries with it decades of human interaction and economic participation. To summarize, the 1991 Canada 1 cent coin, in circulated condition, is a common yet significant example of Canadian numismatics. It features the transition-era portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by a Canadian artist and retains the traditional maple leaf design that had represented the denomination for generations. Though it holds little monetary value today, it is part of the broader story of Canada's currency and remains meaningful to collectors and those interested in the country's cultural and economic history.